excited to welcome the amazing mezzo-soprano and my dear friend from 15 years ago, Abigail Levis. Abby!
Hi.
Hey! Hello, my dear. How are you?
I'm well. I'm a little worse off now that you mentioned it's been 15 whole years, but I'm
Please. You look exactly the same, literally. I mean, if not, obviously better and more fabulous. So guys, this is sort of amazing. Abby and I, we both went to the Eastman School of Music, and I'm gonna quick give you a little shot of down the street here. There we go. I'm gonna zoom in. There's Eastman, yay, hi. So anyway, that is where it all began. And I remember too, because basically all of my friends my freshman year were singers. And I think that was a foreshadowing of the life that we now have, right? I
yeah.
basically just like wanted to be you guys. But we had a great time, and I have very fond memories too, of course, of our Italian 101 class with, what was his name?
Professore Donen, and he was a character, but wonderful teacher. Man.
So wonderful. I know. I remember most of all just having so much fun with you. I think my vocabulary didn't really enhance a whole lot, but I do remember once we were going around saying we were getting used to the words like sono this, sono, I am, and everyone had used all of the good like adjectives already, so I was like sono naturale, and everyone was like, what? What is that? I was like, I'm just being myself. But anyway, it is so good to see you. I mean, how have you been? It's been such a crazy, crazy time, and you are coming to us from California, yes?
I am coming to you from California. I've been isolated here with my husband and my three kids for about, I guess it's been about two-ish months now, three-ish months. Yeah, we're doing okay. We're definitely facing the struggles I think everyone is, the mental roller coaster, emotional roller coaster for sure. But
Yeah.
we had a time and today's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, I know, because I mean, you spend so much time on the road usually. I mean, how often are you usually traveling?
I've never done the math, but I'm sure if I sound, it's probably about 7 to 8 months a year. I try to take the summers off. I'm somewhat successful at that and somewhat not. But I was in Europe when I started, so I actually had to jump on one of the last flights back from Paris and then get back.
And you
Or
made it. Oh my gosh,
it
that's amazing.
was
Yeah.
very stressful and intense, traumatic looking back on it. But yeah, it's very strange to suddenly have my world literally shrink from my career being, international to now it's in my bathroom.
Right, right. I mean, but I guess the silver lining, it right. You're home with your husband and two kids.
Three step kids for me.
Oh,
We have a cat and a dog, even a gecko.
yes. Oh my gosh. So, and now, are you teaching your stepkids any? Are they musical as well, or are they playing anything at home?
A couple of them are. One of them plays saxophone, and the other one is a really accomplished drummer and also a budding pianist. So we have music in the household, and if people don't play instruments, they're definitely avid consumers of music.
Well, that's the most important thing because there needs to be someone on both sides, right? I mean, it's funny because I basically come from a totally non-musical family. I mean, except my mother, always, she sang. She sang and she plays piano and a little guitar. She taught herself guitar. So just having that was enough to totally light the fire, And it was funny too because I remember she said out of all the kids, I was like the only one who would actually like really look at the music when I played. She was like, I could tell there was something there. And thank God that she stuck with me, but in a way I still love that I'm the only musician because it makes like that balance so much more interesting. And it also makes me realize like, we have this tendency to sort of be in our own echo chamber, where we
Yeah.
can get so removed from the general public, like we don't even know how to be accessible or relevant anymore. And then when I go home, I'm like, oh yeah, like, how do I, tell my nieces about this and how, and obviously, luckily the harp is a very kid-friendly instrument. As soon as my nieces see it, they're like, yeah. So is that something like that you enjoy getting to sort of share with your family as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was always a little a learning curve thing with my husband, at least, where he was a little nervous to sing in front of me in the car, and I told him, like, "I don't think you gotta get over that." And bless him, did get over it. And now there's times where I'm like, maybe you don't get over it quite so much.
You mean I'm not going to see a family CD coming out from you guys?
No, he's got an amazing voice though, and he can definitely hold him with the best of them. But it's a lot of Toto, the Africa by Toto.
Africa? It's gonna take a lot to take me away from you. Oh my gosh, that's one of our family jams too.
We started our honeymoon actually in Africa, and he demanded that we cue it up as the plane landed. And so we had our headphones, and we were like, "In the rain, stop."
You guys are the best. Oh my gosh. Well, but I understand, especially with opera needing more of an entry point. I have to say, it's so weird, but even when I first met you back in school, like I was like, I love orchestra. I want to play in an orchestra. I like Stravinsky and Britten, and and my whole world was that. And for some reason, it took me a much longer to get into opera, because I think for me it was sort of overwhelming having like so many things to, you go to an opera and you have the text, you have the singers, you have the orchestra, you have the sets. You can even just not even hear anything and just watch the staging and have that be, super super engaging. So and I was reading your bio, and you were so funny. You said that you fell in love with opera when you were 15 after reading Opera for Dummies. And I love that.
I actually read Opera for Dummies my freshman year at Eastman, because I'm originally from Portland, Maine. Like, I had seen opera in a barn or something. I had no exposure to it really. And so when I got to Eastman, I realized I was like way out of my league. And so I ordered Opera for Dummies and I read it. It's an amazing book. Can't recommend it enough.
Seriously, I feel like I could still use that. I mean, every time because, and the other thing is too, like, there's such a learning curve. First of all, for me, at least, the difference between playing in the symphony, where it's like, okay, you see everyone's in one place. I mean, it's a lot of people, but you have the conductor, and like, that's a lot. But then when you move to the pit, it's such a different dynamic. It's like, so we have all of us here, then we have the conductor, and then we have the singers on stage. And just the sort of reflexes and almost like the athleticism of what you need as an ensemble player, just like through the roof. I mean, and so that was fun. And yeah, and and there's so much rep out there too. It's a completely different body of repertoire, so what was the first opera that you sang and really were like, yes, I love this?
I think one of the first roles I ever sang is still one of my most commonly performed roles. My sort of definitive role would be Cherubino in The Marriage Figaro by Mozart. And so that's a pretty strong gateway drug, I think, for the art form.
Yeah.
That overture alone, if you're not hooked within the first couple minutes, you've only got a few more minutes through the first duet to really fall in love with it. And so I was 20 when I sang my first Cherubino, and I've never stopped loving him or loving Mozart or loving that piece. So
yes, well, and then after we let so I transferred and everything, and then we didn't see each other again until you came to Dallas Opera like 2 or maybe 3 seasons ago. And that was for Traviata. And what was your role in that again?
I was playing Flora, Violetta's sort of sassy bestie.
You were fantastic. And I remember too, I mean, I was like, well, Abby hasn't changed a bit. She is such a ham. And like, and you're so flamboyant and so hilarious. And I mean, and one of the things I really love about when I see you on stage or when I follow you on Instagram is that you are so totally authentic. You are so flamboyant and fun, and you put it out there, and that's really the only way to do it, because I mean, at least I struggle so much. I'm always like, oh, I don't want to bother anyone. I don't want to go outside the box. And it's just like, what box is this? Like, just be yourself, and you do that so well.
Oh, well, thank you. It's not without its own levels of stress and anxiety, but I think it's sort of like you said, I'm not very good at pretending to be anything other than myself. So I kind of have to just be myself and hope that infuses the character that I'm in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes through. So we had a lot of fun last night. And again, I'm sorry. Are you hearing like all the noise outside right now? Is it crazy?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was happening last night too, and we were getting ready to rehearse. And by the way, and this was I just have to applaud both Abby and Adam were so game for this. Like it was a little bit last minute how this happened, but Abby had sent me a message on Instagram saying like, "Hey, you want to like do something virtual sometime?" And I was like, "Yeah, how about tomorrow?"
And like, I'm taking a nap right now, but okay.
And I loved it. And then we hopped on and we recorded this beautiful aria from Handel's Alcina. And what I am also so amazed about is that you haven't actually performed this before, right?
No, this is a piece that I've been wanting to learn for a while. It's been suggested to me by numerous friends and mentors, and I've been playing with it for a while. I've been, getting it into my voice and playing with ornaments and whatnot. But this was the first time I ever really performed it because I was a little bit busy trying, and I just hadn't had time to put this particular aria on its feet. So I'm still on book in the video, but
Well, you sounded incredible, and I mean, and it was such a perfect choice because now some of you will probably say, okay, like Handel didn't really write for the harp, right? But what's interesting is that I mean, he wrote us a couple pieces, and it wasn't, of course, for this double action pedal harp. It was for something else called the arpa doppia, which was basically a double or triple strung harp, which sounds like way too many strings, but people played it, and some people still play it, which is incredible. So, and Handel loved the harp, and he used it often as like an obligato, almost like harpsichord or a theorbo. So when we did it in the Santa Fe Opera 3 seasons ago, Harry Bickett was so sweet, and he came into my practice room. He was like, "Oh, Grace, I'd very much like to use harp in this. Do you have another kind of harp that's not so big?" I was like, I'm not gonna play an arpedoppia, but I think we can find something in the middle. And we ended up finding 100-year-old pedal harp that's like this, but it was a Wurlitzer. That's right, Wurlitzer actually used to make harps, in addition to pianos and jukeboxes and all that. And this harp was just so incredible, and and luckily it still worked. I mean, harps don't, a lot of people don't really, they're like, okay, so are the best harps the ones that are really old? And generally the answer to that is no, because there's so much tension, literally 2,000 pounds of tension on this board. So you can imagine after 100 years, the harp's like, ooh.
literally a ton of tension.
Yeah.
Like a ton.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. But thankfully, this harp was still intact, and basically, Harry and our amazing harpsichordist Stephen Hargreaves from Canada took the time to sit down with me and really teach me how to read figured bass. Which was so freeing and incredible, because that's the other thing with this style of music. Like, it wasn't all like, here's your part, play what's on the page. It was like, here's a bass line, have fun.
Yeah, it's much more similar to say jazz than really any other classical art.
Yeah, exactly. And so learning how to be free, and also learning, I had to learn sort of what my role would be, which was like, I was like, so am I like a theorbo? And they were like, you're a harp. Just, just be yourself. I was like, okay. So, we had a lot of fun, but let's see. So maybe before we play the clip, can you tell us about sort of what's happening in the opera right now? Because, okay, so Alcina, she is the crazy, enchanted lady of the night. Yes, she casts spells on the people who come to her island. She makes them fall in love with her, right?
Yeah, she makes them fall in love with her, and then when she gets bored of them, she tends to turn them into like sheep or trees or whatever.
Monkeys. Yeah, we had monkeys in our production. They were really cute. Yeah.
What? So she just, when she's bored, she turns them into pets, which, okay.
Not a bad tactic. I'll try it.
Not a bad tactic. I'm like, okay, hashtag feminist. But yeah, so at this point, my character, Ruggiero, so this would be a pants role for me. I would be dressed as a man and playing a man, has been enchanted by her and is in love with her, but his actual girlfriend has shown up in disguise also as a man, just so she could kind of get onto the island with greater ease. And she's been getting Ruggiero to kind of come to the light and see that he's not seen as they are. And so at this point, he has seen things as they are. He's recognized Bradamante, his actual fiance, but he's very confused. He's sort of in shock and trying to figure out, well, if everything I'm seeing isn't real, then who can I really trust? And if what you're saying is true, then that means I have been an absolute jerk and unfaithful and awful. And I think it's kind of interesting that we chose this aria for this time, as a lot of America is sort of coming to terms with maybe what they thought they saw and what they thought was the reality is not the reality, and that in our blindness, we have been part of the problem. And so as we've been talking about it today, because I did not choose this aria with this in mind, I just thought it was pretty.
I know, yeah.
I was like, oh my God, we're brilliant. So, I think it's apropos for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And it was just such a joy to get to do this with you and sort of bring this back to life. So here is, and tell us what it's called again.
It's called Mi Lusinga, and it's from Handel's Alcina, sung by the character Ruggiero. Roger.
You're Roger. Okay, Roger that. Here is, okay, cue it up, Doug. Let's take a listen to this beautiful Alcina aria. Yes! Brava, my dear.
Yay! Oh,
By the way, yeah, I can hear you. I was just looking at our Facebook feed and both of our moms are watching.
no!
Your
Hi,
mom's
Mom!
Yeah, hi, Mom! This makes my day. Love your mother. And my mom says, my day too. Love Grace's mom. Number one fans, always.
Woo!
Love you guys. Well, okay, now we are so excited to welcome our next guest, and I pronounced his name wrong earlier, even after we discussed it. Here is Adam Lau. Amazing bass. Here he is. Come on in. You know, I actually once did an arrangement of that for a harp quartet. That's how much I love that song.
In college in an all-male a cappella group called the Testostertones. Also known as the T-Tones.
I love that so much. I also feel the need to share that I too was in an a cappella group, 5 women, and we were called Quintessence.
That's a lot better than Testostertones.
I mean, it's a little less hormonal.
That's like yes.
But it's like being called like the Estrogenians or something.
Oh,
no.
Anyway, well, we are so happy to have you here. Where are you coming from today, Adam?
San Francisco.
Yes, and so both of you are holding up the West Coast today.
Yep.
Good.
West Coast.
Woo! So how have you been out there? I know. So we've been in touch during some of this craziness. I know you had some things up that you were supposed to be doing at Seattle, which kind of got. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Well, no, actually, it was I was supposed to be in Dallas until for the Barber, and then San Francisco Opera.
Barber of Seville, right? Because that was supposed to be this season.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we are lucky to have you here virtually. And if you decide to serenade us with another bathroom aria sometime, we would love that.
Okay.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Adam is not only an amazing singer, but he also has a fantastic sense of humor. And if you follow him on Facebook, you'll see, you are so funny. And he started recording these great arias in his bathroom because, well, the fact is, bathrooms have some of the best acoustics. They really do. I mean, have both of you ever, I mean, and for anyone in the feed, tell us if you've ever had a really good practice session in a bathroom, because I find that you can get a lot of good work done in there, you know?
We all do it. We sing in our showers. Yeah. I mean, come on. It's the best.
Every audition I've ever done, I just warmed up in a Starbucks bathroom somewhere.
I don't know anyone who actively goes into their closet to sing because of all the clothing buffering, all the sound. Might as well just put a pillow to my face.
Yeah.
Put me in a ceramic box.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And so Adam, so we met, I believe, I first heard you probably 2015 at the Dallas Opera. Was it
yes.
I think it was the composer, it was the first year of Institute, the Heart Institute for Women Conductors. Yeah.
Wait, were you there for Noce? Because I was in that.
I was, but alas, there is no harp part. That's right. So, funny story. Mozart. did not he was not a fan of the harp, and it makes me cry every day. But he loved, like, he wrote us one piece, and it was reluctantly so. There was like he was teaching someone, he had a student who was like a composer, a pianist, and also a harpist, and or rather it was her father, and the father was like, can you write something for my little girl, whatever. And she was like 14, and she wasn't even like super advanced, but he reluctantly said, okay, sure, but it's not just going to be for harp. It has to be for harp and flute, because, the harp wasn't enough. So the one piece we have is the Mozart Harp and Flute Concerto. But, we're so glad he wrote it because, yeah, Mozart. So anyway, long story short, I wasn't there for but was that your first big performance there?
That was my first thing. I was saying Antonio in that role, and I had so much fun though. Oh my God! Little story is that I didn't tell my colleagues. I mean, because Antonio, you just like burst onto the scene for like maybe 2-3 minutes. But who was it? It was it David? I told him to. I said, listen, David, can you black out some of my teeth for this? I'm not going to. So when I went on stage, didn't tell any of my colleagues, but I ran on, and then the first thing you sing is, ah, senor. So I just got up in front of everyone's faces, and I was just like, ah. And it was amazing because all of my colleagues were like trying to be really serious, and then they had to stifle their laugh, and they're like, and turn up stage to try to hide it.
That's what we love about you, Adam. Like, because that's what we need. I mean, that's the other thing. Opera can seem very serious, especially for people who maybe like don't know it that well. But it's just full of character, and there's so many ways to interpret these roles. And so for you, what would you say is your like number one favorite role to sing?
Besides Figaro, I gotta say, I love Leporello. That's kind of who I am. Like I'm a goofball, and
and Leporello is it's from which opera?
Don Giovanni.
Oh, yes, another opera I don't plan. Pardon my ignorance.
No, no, please. But I love that, and gosh, I had an opportunity to sing in concert, Mephistopheles in Damnation, and I love Berlioz. So underrated, so underappreciated.
Now, this is something that harpists will 125% agree with you on, because he was so brilliant, but orchestrally, the way that he wrote for instruments that no one had played for. He's like, I can't talk about Berlioz without getting overheated.
Yes.
He's so good. But he thought of, and again, like, my history isn't great, but he wrote Symphony Fantastique in the early 1800s, and this was like miles before anyone had even started to really write even single harp parts, much less double harp parts. So he actually conceived of like the two parts, and I wonder how much of it was him, how much of it was the opium. We'll never know, but it doesn't matter, And so that's fun. Because I've never played Mephistopheles, unfortunately, but there are so many good Berlioz operas.
Oh, good.
Yeah. What about you, Abby? So what is your like absolute? So I know. So you said you have your favorite role in the first opera you did. What are some? And you often play men. What is that like for you?
It's really fun, and it's quite freeing. It's informed my personality a fair amount over the years too. When you get to play a man, you get to take up a lot more space than you usually do as a woman.
Yes, I love that.
You get to kind of do whatever you want, which is an amazingly liberating experience. And one of my favorite roles, Adam mentioned doing things in concert. I recently did a concert version and also a stage version of Bellini's Romeo from I Capuletti e Montecchi, and that was a wild ride. It's a very different Romeo than I think a lot of people are used to. He's a little more hot-headed. He's a little more Italian, a little more intense. And it's a different slightly different storyline than the Shakespeare, but it's an incredible opera, and it was actually written for a woman. It wasn't written for a man who, it wasn't written for castrato, which we know
Right, that's interesting. Because for a while, I mean, did women just not sing opera for a while because were they like allowed to? I mean, or was it mostly men?
I'm a few years out of my last world music class. So Adam, if you have a remembrance of this, I do believe there was some issues with women being on stage. And so at least in Handel's time, they would have had castrato, men who'd been castrated, singing a lot of these roles.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And
exactly.
Then that went out of style. It's not very nice.
Well, I immediately thought of the movie Shakespeare in Love. Remember that whole thing? And like Gwyneth couldn't take the stage, and she had to dress up like a man. And well, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That's so interesting. So let's see. What else? So Adam, we prepared a really fun piece together last night, and this was again very late at night. And I'm so glad you reached out to me. It was what was it, like a couple weeks ago? You saw the TDO trailer we made, and you were like, hey, you have a good voice for voiceovers, and I was like, whoa,
you do. It's awesome.
If that's coming from Adam, like that just made my life.
Come on.
No, because I mean, yeah, and you're, because I mean, yeah, your voice is so fantastic. But so, tell us about this chanson romanesque. So this is a great piece by Ravel. First of all, as a harpist, of course, I love Ravel. But you were telling me this comes from Don Quixote.
Yes, the three-song set, and it's the first of the three, where Don Quixote he's declaring his love for Dulcinea. And he's saying all these grand things like, if the earth offends you, I'll send Pancho out to stop it. And if the stars in the sky bore you, I'll tear them out with one blow. And if that empty space then offends you, then I'll sow the stars into the winds that passes by. And so it's all these very heroic gestures that he's proclaiming to Dulcinea.
Well, you really, I mean, I gotta say, yes, if I were standing across from you, I'd be like, yes, okay, you got me. You're so charming. I just love this. And I can't wait to actually play it with you in person sometime. So, yes.
And then I'll make you play some Mozart.
Yes.
Mozart opera stuff.
I'll harpify that anytime.
I just thought De Vieni would have been awesome.
We'll start making a wish list, okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So here is the Ravel chanson romanesque. So good. And what I love about this, of course, we have this fun little hemiola. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, I want to be in America. Dun, 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 dun. But what I end up feeling is like, is he sort of still maybe supposed to be on a horse? Because I feel that sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let me destroy the romantic part of this. That's the horse's butt swinging back and forth. Da 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 da.
Oh, I love that. Text painting for the win.
Oh my gosh.
Well, let's see. So we got a couple of questions here for you guys, and I have a couple of questions before we finish up. We have a question from Avanti Day. She loved the arrangement of the Alcina, Abby, and she's asking, she said, you mentioned briefly how you get certain roles to sit in your voice. What is this process like for you? Do you find that good roles are an automatic fit or that they take more work?
Ooh, I mean, a little bit of both. That particular aria, definitely, as I said, it had been recommended to me several times. And the first time I sang through it, I understood right away why it had been recommended to me. It does fit me really well. It doesn't feel terribly hard on my instrument.
Mm-hmm.
But that can also be a little bit of a double-edged sword where it's like you think you're safe and so you fall back on bad habits. So if anything, I have to be a little bit more aware of things when it is an easier fit. With something like the Bellini Romeo, which is just a bear of a role anyway, it fits me well, but it never feels like it when I'm singing it. I always feel like I'm doing backflips for 3 hours straight. So it just requires a certain amount of precision and also staying on top of what you need to stay on top of in the practice room and honing in on those particular problem points. So a little both. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I think a lot about you guys too, because especially when we're in college too, because I mean, it takes a while for your voices to mature. I mean, Adam, what was that process for you like? I mean,
oh my God, hot mess.
I think we've all been a hot mess for a long period of time.
That's such a loaded question. How was it in college? Grace. In college, I wasn't singing opera stuff. I was doing like musical theater. And then when we like helped me change my mindset to like, maybe your voice is more suited for like opera, which made me cry inside for like the entire day. I wanted to be a tenor. So I was trying to sing, oh my God, in the student union, like the ballroom. I would just walk in and I'd have this entire ballroom to myself and I'd crack the hell out of it, like tenor arias. I'd try to sing like Unaura, and I just remember like one day listening to this one tenor. I'm walking to the music room or music building, and I just stopped my footsteps because I realized how they got to like that high note, that A or A flat, and so I just I ran into the practice room and I just would be like, and just Tarzan the hell out of it. But then eventually kind of get it, but straight tone, which is not really.
So you were like falsettoing?
No, I was trying to belt it.
Doing it.
So yeah, I was belting back then. But kind of like what Abby said, it just for me, I don't know. I think there's some some languages that just kind of snap together. Yeah. Like I loved singing French and German. It just, those are more, I think that in Russian, my voice kind of just sort of gets it. I think that there's more shades of gray actually with Italian, because things are a little bit more open. Versus like French, it's either really close or really open. There's no in between. And so I suppose from like a student standpoint, I think that's like one of the better languages for singers to work on. Once you get past like the nasals and you don't like put it into your nose, it's like a very singer friendly language.
Yeah. So yeah, well, that's amazing. I never would have guessed that you had a tenor alter ego. That's
Because
amazing.
you get to like sing. Oh my God, when I was in that HGO competition, I remember they like archived interviews of every singer and they're like, "Who are your idols?" And I was like, "Corelli, Pavarotti," and they're like, "Wait, what about like bass?" So I was like, "Corelli,
Yeah.
Pavarotti."
It's usually the other way around. It's usually tenors like desperately wishing that they were baritones or like not wanting to admit that they're actually tenors. And here's this like
But
honest to
see-
God bass wishing he was a tenor.
Lots of tenor. It's because you get to sing to the girl. You get to sing all. It's because musical theater, you sing all this super cheesy romantic stuff, and as a bass, you rarely ever get to sing that stuff. And so I was like, what? I want to sing all that beautiful melodic stuff over
Yeah.
there. Not
I get
going to
that.
be a
And
father.
yeah, I so get that. I mean, I first fell in love with music actually through musical theater because I grew up
Yeah.
in Jersey. And, we would come in and see Broadway shows. I mean, Andrew Lloyd Webber, up the wazoo. I mean, just constantly. Rent, of course. I mean, like all of these. Yeah. And that's why, guys, also, another thing you should check out on Adam's page is his recording of Stars from Les Mis. Seriously, Adam, can we please do that together? Will you promise?
You're there can arrest my Fontaine
Dude, that'd be
any
so much
day.
fun.
Yes, I know. What is your
Okay.
favorite musical theater, Abby?
Oh, I mean, Les Mis is my like every time I do a car trip that's longer than like 2 hours, that gets a full belt through. I think I know the entire musical. I can do a one woman show.
Yes.
I would pay to see that.
But I'm also a big Sondheim nerd. So, any Sondheim all day, every day for me.
Sweetie.
Yes. Well, actually, this is a perfect segue because one of the last things I want to ask you is just a little funny. What is maybe your most embarrassing on stage?
Ladies first.
Okay, because I know.
I meant first. The only time that I could think of is I always tell people I'm sort of the Jimmy Fallon of opera, where like if somebody's gonna break on stage and start laughing, it will 100% be me. So I am a prime candidate for the kind of stuff that Adam apparently likes to do, like black out his teeth without telling people. And it was actually a Barber of Seville that I was in where my Bartolo, there's this famous SNL skit with Christopher Walken where he's a botanist who's afraid of plants.
I need to see this.
Yeah, something in my throat. He puts googly eyes on everything. And so he has all these plants surrounded by googly eyes. And we were doing a very low rent Barber of Seville, and my Bartolo put googly eyes on the like one fern that we had as a set piece. And so I'm starting Una Voce Poco Fa, and I look over at this stupid fern, and there's big googly eyes on it that only I can see. And I was like, and like dying with laughter. And I went off stage and like shoved my Bartolo like, oh, he could do a dead-on walking impression. So it had been an inside joke, but
I love that. I know you guys always have so much fun on stage. I always like want to be up there. Adam, you got one?
They're crazy stories. I think okay, this is a little serious, but
yes, good.
So I was doing Leporello. It was in North Carolina Opera, and it was opening actually. And the role of Leporello is you start the rehearsal process, and by the end of it, you lose weight because you're running around so much on the stage, like just literally zipping from side to side, grabbing this and then popping over to stage left. And I just remember orchestra starting, and after singing like the first verse, I walk over to stage right, I grab my bag on the ground, and I quickly turn and like kind of sprint in the opposite direction, and I hear this pop sound. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I thought I had a Charlie horse, like, a muscle spasm in my calf. I actually tore it. Opening night, so like the casing was just like, and so the rest of the show and I mean, it's okay. Like I made it work, but the rest of the entire show, I basically gave Leporello like some swagger because I had to, because I was limping. So I was just like, I'd walk on stage and people were like, oh, all of a sudden we're getting a little flavor. All right.
You could totally pull that off. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, after that show, I was in a boot and everything. It was just like, oh my Lord.
Dude, yeah. There's nothing like being handicapped. It's funny, I broke my knee 2 summers ago, right before the Santa Fe Opera season started, and I had my leg in a straight leg. That's my foot. Sorry, my straight leg brace for the entire summer. I also had a swagger. I remember all, you know, and it was the hardest part was like, well, for a while I was in a wheelchair. That was a whole nother thing. But then, and I was like trying to play, like I like wheel up my chair, and then once I had the brace on, I could thankfully walk, but I had to keep my leg completely straight. So you can imagine, first of all, it made pedaling very awkward.
Yeah.
You know, I was doing all sorts of things with my hips. And I remember in the recovery process, I had a bass player tell me, you know, Grace, you'll probably always have a swagger, but you know, that's cool. And I was like, I really hope not. I'm 32 years old, and I you know, I mean, like, gosh, let's not have this be the end of my mobility. But let's see. Okay, well, and speaking of like embarrassing moments on stage, I also, fun fact, used to also love musical theater, and we did a lot of Sondheim. We did Pacific Overtures actually in high school. We also did Guys and Dolls. So, and if my mom's still watching, she will remember this. Oh, and I see Elizabeth's on here. Hey, Elizabeth, she remembers the leg break. Yeah, that was epic. So anyway, flashback to 2001. I am a freshman in high schoul, and we're doing Guys and Dolls, and I was one of the oh gosh, you know Adelaide when she sings "Take Back Your Man." Oh, I was a Hotbox Girl. There we go.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with this show? A little bit, yeah.
Of course.
Of course, duh. Okay, so she's doing the dance. You know, take back your mink, take back your boils, take back, and basically we're taking things off, and we were supposed to strip down to like a little leotard and like little shorts. But for opening night, I actually forgot to put on my shorts, so take off my skirt, and I'm the only one without little shorts on. So it's like I had this moment where I was like, okay, I could run off stage, or I could stay and just sort of play it off. And what was so funny is that people actually thought it was on purpose. They were like, oh, you were like the hotbox girl who forgot her shorts. That was such a cute bit. I was like, oh no, that's just me being an idiot.
Okay, you just reminded me of a horrific thing that happened. It's funny. In high school as well. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, we could go on all day about that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, really quickly.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the senior year in high school, there's like, sometimes the senior class, they do like performances each, whatever. I did a rendition of I Left My Heart in San Francisco, because I'm from San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. But for some reason, I'm supposed to sing the first verse, and then the lights are supposed to turn on, the audience is supposed to turn the program, read the back, and sing along the second verse with me. The first verse I'm singing, I'm like, I left my heart, and I keep going higher and higher in switching keys and modulating, that by the time I get to the end of it, I'm cracking so hard. And okay, if you know one thing about me, I have many versions of sweating. There's like nervous sweat, which is like, if I make a mistake, don't look at me. It's a defensive type of like, I'm like, a type of sweat. So at that point, I'm like glistening. Yeah. And you can feel the like, that awkward silence in the audience. And I go, okay, actually, I've never told this publicly, but so I told everyone, I was like, okay, let's, this isn't working so well. Can we turn on the lights? And, hey, you know, I've got an idea. Hey, audience, could you help me? Why don't you turn turn that program over and help me with singing this because it's not working out here. And so we do it. And everyone thought that I did that on purpose.
Yes.
Half of them
right.
were like, "Whoa, that was so real. Was that?" And I was just like, "Yeah, absolutely, that was planned."
So smooth. I love that. I mean, and it's so true. There are so many times when we think something is an absolute disaster and like, well, that was the worst thing that could ever happen. And then you're like, oh, actually, that was a good thing. Like, you know, I mean, my gosh. And it's so funny too, even like how I ended up at Dallas Opera. Like I was going hard for another job and I was like, that's the job that I really, and I didn't get it. And I was like, oh my God. And then I went to Dallas and I was like, oh, this is so much better. Like I have opera in my life. You know, I wouldn't have, I mean, and I was like, this is, you know, and I mean, life is just full of all of these surprises and these twists and turns. And anyway, I'm just so grateful that my twists and turns have brought me to all of you, to you wonderful people. And this has been so much fun just sitting with you today and laughing and sharing music. And this is just really what I needed so much. And you guys are the best.
Oh, well, thanks for having us. This was a lot of fun.
Seriously, thank you. And thank you for staying up till 3 a.m. making a recording for this.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What? No. And Abby, so much love to you. I can't wait. We gotta get you guys up here in Rochester. We gotta have like a reunion or something. Right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So we'll keep in touch. But in the meantime, a huge thank you to Dallas Opera for hosting us. We love you guys so much. And a huge thank you to Doug Ashbaugh, our technician extraordinaire, who brought us those beautiful videos today. So we hope you all stay safe. We send you lots of love, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.